This is the Benelli 600i. I bought this bike last year. It was just an upgrade from the Charisma that you can see right here. Today the Benelli turns 1 year old, so I have decided to make a 1 year ownership experience kind of a video. Thought it might help people who are planning to get this bike soon. So let's go ahead and see if this bike is really worth it. So I'm going to divide this video into two parts. The first part I'm going to talk about the good things about this bike, and second half I'm going to talk about the bad things about this bike. I don't mean that they're like really bad, but these are the things that I'm not really happy about. So one more thing I want to say about this review is that I'm not inclined towards this brand, or I'm against this brand in any manner. This would be a very honest review of what I felt about this bike. Okay, so let's start with the review now, and let's start with the good things about this bike first. The first thing you notice about this bike will be its superior build quality. The build quality on this bike is really amazing. There are no plastic parts, cheap plastic parts especially used anywhere on this bike. The whole bike is built like a tank. The bike feels strong, firm and sturdy on the ground. There are no vibrating parts anywhere. So I must say the build quality is super premium on this bike. The second good thing about this bike is its engine. The engine is super reliable. Trust me on this, because I did like long tours on the bike, somewhere around 1200, 1800, 2000 kilometers and all, and the bike has kept up with the journey. The engine was literally on for 8 hours or 9 hours sometimes without any break. We did these rides, and trust me, the bike has really kept up and never gave us any problems, be it in winters, summers, rainy season. And the engine is super reliable on the bike. The next good thing about this bike will be its maneuverability. Most of the people who are planning to get this bike will think about whether this bike really maneuvers in the city properly or not. Yeah, not it is amazing, but it is like really good in the city. You can't like really take this in the bumper to bumper traffic. You can take it, but maneuvering it will give you a hard time. Moderate traffic, yes. Bumper to bumper traffic, no. The next good thing about this bike will be its high-end torque. The torque actually starts at 6000 rpm. The bike literally pulls from 100 to 170 kilometers an hour in like seconds, and you're really gonna enjoy this on the highway. When you're like already doing 100 kilometers or 120 kmph and you want to pull the bike more, it's like a piece of cake for this bike. One more thing I'm really happy about this bike is its fuel efficiency. This bike churns out at least 20 to 25 kilometers for a liter. Come on now, compare it with a 200 or 250cc bike, which gives you 30 to 40 kilometers for a liter, and this being a 600cc bike giving you 25 kilometers for a liter on the highway is like a very good thing. The good part of the review will not be complete without mentioning the sound of this machine. The 4 pistons churning out this sound is music to the ears. Once you rev the engine, you'll have 10-15 people looking at you. That is the kind of attention this bike gets. In terms of sound, this bike easily competes with a liter class. Okay, so coming to the bad things about this bike. Unfortunately, this bike has quite a few things that make me unhappy. So the first thing that will be is its weight. This bike weighs literally 230 kgs. Trust me, this is not an easy bike to handle, especially in bumper to bumper traffic. The second thing that I don't like about this bike will be its headlamp. The headlamp, especially the low beam, is like scattered a lot, which reduces the intensity of the light. The high beam is okay, but the low beam definitely needs to be changed. The third thing that I don't like about this bike is its weight management. The way the weight has been distributed throughout this bike is bad. Towards the left and right, the bike is perfect, no doubt about that. But towards the front and back weight management, that is really bad. The bike tends to have most of its weight towards the front, which makes the rear end lighter. What happens with this is the rear tire locks very easily. The tire is like really wide, but still there is no traction towards the rear end, especially when you're braking. The service frequencies are like really high. It's like every 4,000 kilometers or 4 months, whichever is earlier. I'll show you this. I hope you can see this. There are like 7 services in like 24-month period. That's like 2 years. And you need to take your bike like 7 times to the service center. Each service costs you around 8,000 on average. First service is free, but still that too costs you like 3,000 bucks. Considering that there are like 7 services into 8,000 rupees for a service, you're spending around 60,000 in 2 years. That is like 30,000 for a year, which is quite expensive. I wish the service intervals were much lesser. One more thing that makes me unhappy about the bike will be its fuel gauge. The fuel gauge is not something that you can rely on. The fuel gauge is not accurate. There can be maybe a 10% error, but this fuel gauge has a lot of error in it. You can just keep it as a reference, but you cannot rely completely on this fuel meter. Okay, the most irritating thing about this bike will be its speedometer or the instrument cluster. The buttons on the instrument cluster are so bad, they're so hard to press that you literally need to put like 20 kilos of force just to make them work. You actually feel that the speedometer is gonna fall apart by pressing that. It moves so much while pressing that, and the speedometer can literally fall apart. This last thing really pisses me out. I don't know what the designers were thinking while designing this bike. The fuel overflow mechanism in this bike literally sucks. Okay, when you fill any bike to the top, if the tank cannot take it more, what happens is the fuel overflows through some overflow mechanism, some pipe that is attached, and it dispenses the fuel out through a safe method. But in this bike, the fuel literally overflows onto the engine block. This is really scary, especially when the bike is already very hot after you do like hundreds of kilometers in a long journey. You go to a fuel station, fill it up to the top obviously, and then the fuel keeps flowing onto the engine block, which is already like very hot. This is really scary. Okay, so this was my very honest opinion about the Benelli 600i. I hope you like this video. If you have any questions regarding the bike, please let me know in the comments below and I'll try to answer them for you. Also, I would like to tell you that this is my opinion and it might differ from person to person. So I strongly suggest you to go personally feel the bike, experience it, and take multiple test rides if possible, and then come to a conclusion to whether go with this bike or not. Also, please do hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, please like it and also share it. It will be really helpful. I'll be coming up with more such videos soon, so stay tuned.